Facebook is one of the biggest media companies now in the world, and Mark Zuckerberg, arguably the most powerful man in all of media right now, and he has been opposed to Donald Trump putting up this border wall. He's been outspoken about that, and he wrote this: "Like many of you, I'm concerned about the impact of the recent executive orders signed by President Trump. We need to keep this country safe, but we should do that by focusing on people who actually pose a threat. We should also keep our doors open to refugees and those who need help. That's who we are." And of course, we just learned that Mark Zuckerberg was also
building his own wall.
Building his own wall around his Hawaiian
personal
home.
property.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, a little hypocritical.
First of all, I'm tired of one percenters like Mark Zuckerberg and others lecturing us about who we are. I know who I am, and most Americans know who we are. We are a sovereign nation. If you're going to have a sovereign, if you're going to be a sovereign nation, you have to have borders, and you have to protect those borders. Mark Zuckerberg has no idea who's coming into this country and what it takes to vet those individuals. I, as a law enforcement officer, I'm in my 39th year. We do a lot of vetting of people. I know how it's done, but you have to have databases with which to compare. So you take a name, someone coming in as a refugee. We're not talking about the kids. I'm tired of all this, throwing the crocodile tears about the kids, the poor kids coming in. We're not talking about that. We're talking about able-bodied grown men fighting age that should be back in Syria and back in the Middle East fighting for their country, coming over to the United States to spread jihad. So that's what we're talking about. But if you don't have a database, someone gives you a name, and you don't have a database in Syria because they don't have the record systems and the databases like we have with people, you have nothing to compare it to. So they give you a name and you look and there's nothing there. That doesn't mean that they're safe to come in. So Donald Trump is right on this, and I hope that the rest of the people in Washington, D.C. realize that this thing is a mess, and we have to get our arms around it, and at least President Donald Trump recognizes that.
There in the last tweet that we just read, he just tweeted that just a few moments ago. What do you make about that and the war of words that's going on between President Trump and the media continues on?
Well, first of all, the mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, they have become the propaganda wing of the Democrat Party and of leftist ideology. They have abandoned their responsibility under the Constitution, their First Amendment protection, and we want them to have First Amendment protection, but we don't want it to be used against people whose political views they don't agree with or that they oppose. They're supposed to be a watchdog, but instead what they have become, like I said, is an echo chamber for leftist ideology. So I think it's good because the media has changed, and organizations like the New York Times, Washington Post, and others do not realize that this is a new media age, and every person in the United States now is their own reporter, and that is competition to them as well, and they don't like it.
Well, it's interesting that there's so many people surprised by this first week. Yesterday when he put forward that executive action on extreme vetting, for example, that was one of his biggest campaign promises. He spoke about that for the past year and a half. I mean, all he's doing is really following through on what he promised he would on the campaign and what many people voted for him to do.
Well, what's interesting is former President Barack Obama said that they were already doing it. So if he said, and they weren't, but if he said they were already doing it, and now President Donald Trump comes along and says we're doing it, and now these same people who said, well, hey, Barack Obama's taking care of it, these same people are now being critical of it. The hypocrisy of this is profound. But Donald Trump understands, President Donald Trump understands that his first obligation is to defend and protect American citizens and defend and protect America from foreign threats. That is his first and most important obligation. So he is rising up to that, and people should be proud of that. It makes me feel more secure that finally somebody understands that the defense of this nation is government's #1 priority.
Well said, Sheriff David Clarke. Always great to see you here. Thanks so much.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, sir.